Good evening, friends. Welcome to the Danny Buckler Show. How are you? I'm Danny Buckler. Welcome to Buckler Studios. People are starting to arrive. That's good. I'm very excited about tonight's one because I'm just going to have a chat with a mate who I don't get to see very often. I don't get to see him at all while this is happening. And it's also why I'm wearing this T-shirt because I've got no doubt we're going to be getting into this at some point. He's the only person I know that knows more about the 1960s Batman comedy series than I do. So I'm sure that will be coming up. Who's coming in? Ben's here. Fantastic. Brandon, nice to see you. Nice. People are piling in. I'm just trying to sort of keep this chat going while looking for him in the stream because I've got to add him as soon as he arrives. So this is always awkward. Oh, it's always agony, this. I wish I could master it, I wish I could just sort of appear and have dancing girls and all that. But, you do what you can with what you got. So while we're waiting for him to kick in, how are you all? How's it going out there? In the great big yonder. It's dragging a bit now, isn't it? But we'll get there, my friends. We'll get there. Forgive me being a bit distracted. I'm trying to find him on the on here. Is that him? That's not him. He's watching this. I know he's watching this. I was trying to instruct him in the ways of joining a stream. There he is. Right. Send me the request, Will, and I'll add you. How do I join? Right. Here it comes. Sit tight, friends. Don't go anywhere. If you jump off, Will, and then you rejoin, when you join the stream, a thing will come up that will say request to join the stream. You press that, and that takes you in, and I'll see it then, and then I accept it, and then up you pop. So you'll have to come out and come back in again. There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Danny Buckler stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of the most interesting people I know, the wonderful comedian that is Mr. Wil Hodgson. There you go. Boom. You're on, mate. How are you? Oh, you've got no sound, Will.
Hear me now?
I can hear you now, Will, yes.
Cool. Just the microphone, the speaker on my phone's absolute rot, mate. But I can just about hear you. How are you, mate? You all right?
I'm all right, mate, given the circumstances. How are you?
Not too bad. Just about kind of staving off insanity, really. I'm out of work on 2 counts because I'm a barber as well as a comedian. So been kind of screwed on both counts by the plague and everything. But I'm sort of hanging in there, mate. What about yourself?
Same as that, you know what I mean? There's no showbiz happening, so I'm doing hosting a talk show on Instagram and trying to maintain my sanity.
Nothing wrong with that, mate. This is what you should have been doing for the last sort of 20 years, mate.
I'm starting to think that, yeah.
Plot. Plot before EastEnders. That's where you should be.
Yeah, the Now Show slot. I've been watching lots of classic telly and just sort of trying to keep my head together.
I've been doing that as well. Did you watch Ace of Wands after I recommended it to you?
No, I've been looking for it since you recommended it.
Is it not on YouTube?
It's bound to be.
They ought to remake that with you as the lead of it. It's about it's like Doctor Who, but he's a magician instead of a time traveller with his assistants. And the bad guys are played by people like the one I was watching the other day. The bad guy's played by Brian Wilde, Mr. Barraclough, out of Porridge, playing this mind-reading bad guy. So it's a bit like the kind of 60s Batman shows, and you've got like bit part actors playing wacky villains in it. There's your vehicle, mate. This is what they all do, a remake of that.
That's what I'm pitching to the Edinburgh Festival next year. I fancy a bit of that.
Yeah.
He was underrated, Brian Wilde, as an actor.
Was he? Brian Wilde was the voiceover in the old Play Safe public information films. The ones about not electrifying yourself with overhead wires. That was his voice doing these are not telephone wires. That one. Brian Wilde, prolific is what he was.
Unbelievable. I can remember him turning up in the Queen Elizabeth, what was it called? Not the Tudors, the old 70s, not the Six Wives of Henry VIII, for the other one. Glenda Jackson played Queen Elizabeth.
I don't think I know that one, mate. Period drama is not my strong spot.
He was like the court torturer. And it was like seeing Foggy playing this absolutely nasty bastard.
Of course, I keep forgetting he's Foggy, even though I know full well he's always going to be Mr. Barraclough to me.
Yeah.
Even though I know full well he's Foggy. What they should have done was a Last of the Summer Wine special that was like First Blood with Foggy. Going into the woods, tooled up, and like seeing off some like local authorities or something like that. That's one of my many ideas for things that's never going to transpire.
Taking down poachers.
Yeah, poachers. That's the very one. Yeah, Foggy, yeah. First Blood.
That show never survived the loss of Foggy.
Sorry, I didn't catch that, Dan. Sorry.
When they tried to replace Foggy with another character played, who was it?
Didn't they replace?
I can see his face
at one point.
Was who?
Didn't they replace him with Russ Abbott or Kato out of the Pink Panther at one point?
Towards the end, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember tuning in once, like randomly, it was Last of the Summer Wine, and I thought this has got Kato out of the Pink Panther in it, or Burt Kwok, as I believe he prefers to be referred to. But I thought that's just a brilliant bit of like left field, sort of like, who can we bung in here that like people of a certain age will like? I know, we'll have Kato like the Pink Panther, and Russ Abbott doesn't do enough, I don't think. They never repeat any of his stuff on the telly.
No.
Never repeat any of it. You can never. There's no DVD release either. I can't watch Russ Abbott's Madhouse. And that's a pretty poor state of affairs, I reckon.
Madhouse, yeah. I mean, that became the laughter show. That was that show got that was Freddie Starr, wasn't it, originally?
Was it? See, the thing with Freddie Starr is he's more, Russ Abbott's more kind of Timmy Mallet mad, and Freddie Starr's more kind of Charles Manson mad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's Freddie Starr's Madhouse sounds more like Arkham Asylum than it does kind of fun like child would want to visit for a bit of mirth. Freddie Starr was I've heard some quite sort of some stuff about. There's that story that I heard about the Orville one. I told you that one, didn't I?
Yeah, but feel free to tell it again, mate. That's what we're here for.
Well, it was Silky told me this. Like, you know Silky, Danny.
Yeah.
People who don't know him, Silky's a fantastic comedian from Liverpool who runs some gigs. And Silky was telling me this story that he heard off of a guy who was a prop man. He was working on the Royal Variety performance. Do you reckon that Keith Harris had this ritual where he'd have Orville like upside down in the wings by the stage entrance, and you could tell I'm a theatrical man, I know all the terminology, and so that he could go like this and like sort of scoop his hand in and like sort of scoop Orville up like that and then walk onto the stage in a kind of like sort of motion. So yeah. One fateful night, Freddie Starr shat in Orville, apparently, and I don't know what the upshot of it was. Presumably Keith Harris put his hand in it, and I can imagine him going backstage and going, "Which one of you did this?" And Freddie Starr being like, it was me. Do you want to make something of it?"
The mad eyes going.
No, and just like resigned himself to. He's supposed to have done it in Ringo Starr's drum kit as well, which I think, like, of all the Beatles to have a pop at, I always thought that Ringo was like in every sort of like group of pretentious people, there's always like Rick Wakeman in Yes. There's always look at Yes, and you think they're all sort of pretentious hippies, but Rick Wakeman's like the fair enough sort of everyman. Ringo Starr was actually I should be more saying Rick Wakeman was the Ringo Starr of Yes rather than the other way round. But yeah, that's why Ringo's my favourite Beatle, because I'm pretentious everyman nature. I like all the pub songs on the albums that he puts in there.
Yeah, I always thought it was a bullied figure, Ringo.
Well, he seems the happiest out of the Beatles. There doesn't seem a lot of angst with Ringo. He seemed to be just having like a nice time of it. That he was like, yeah, this is quite good. I could sort of feel a bit bad for him. I imagine when they were splitting up, he was like, what? What was the name of the guy that replaced Ringo for like a month on tour at the height of Beatlemania, and it ruined his life because he just couldn't deal with being in the Beatles? What was his name?
I can't remember. I'm not a Beatles expert in that way. I didn't even know there was such a man.
Yeah, Ringo had tonsillitis, when they were on their first big Beatlemania tour, and they grabbed some guy out of that was like a journeyman musician and like sort of cut his hair with a bowl and shoved him into Ringo's suit and just bunged him on and hoped nobody noticed. He went on tour in, like, I think it was the Japanese and Australian leg of it or something like that. And it was just like, he just never really dealt with it, being in the Beatles. They just like, Ringo come back and they were sort of like, here you go. He was like a gold watch engraved, sort of like, thanks for pulling us out of the shit, love the lads from Liverpool and Brian Epstein. Then it was like, right, back you go to playing the working men's clubs and doing like ropey covers of Work Together by Canned Heat with probably Chubby Brown on bass or something like
Jesus,
something like that. And that was it. He just he was in the Beatles, and then he won, and he was just expected to readjust to normal life. Can you imagine that?
oh, it'd be like doing Britain's Got Talent the morning after you go out, I'd imagine.
How many times have they asked you to do Britain's Got Talent, Danny?
Every year, mate, since it started. No, not since it started, but the last 4 years they've asked me.
How come you don't do it? I know why you don't do it, but I think it's worth you saying, because you must get asked that a lot, why you don't do it. Because I sometimes sort of think like you ought to go on there because you'd win it, but they're notorious, aren't they, for just disrespecting professionals?
Yeah, it's not. I know too much about how it works. It's not a level playing field. They've got an agenda. It's a soap opera about the judges, as far as I can tell. And then the acts are essentially the people at the back of the Queen Vic who sort of nod their heads and do that. And don't you know?
You ever watch the American one? I watched that. Who's the guy who presents it? Who does the Ant and Dec bit? Because he presents it like it's like there's a fence between you and the show, and he's looking through a hole in the fence and telling you what's happening. So it'd be like sort of like, come on, he's juggling. You go, this guy's juggling here, totally juggling. Oh, and they buzzed him. It's like it's like he's looking through a hole in the fence. And what's happening? What's happening back there? Right, he's doing a ventriloquist act back there. It's just superfluous. Do you know what I mean? You can see what's going on. I've only watched it once, but he just annoyed me. American Idol, I quite like.
And the American Got Talent goes on forever.
Yeah, the American Idol has as well. There doesn't seem to be anything. They're very nice on American Idol. There's like, you've got Lionel Richie, and he's as nice as you can imagine. And there's that guy Luke Bryan, that American country singer, who's on there, and he seems very, very nice. He seems like the sort of bloke who, like a character from a John Denver song. I'd imagine that he like loves his mum's cooking, and that he helps old grannies across the road and that kind of thing. And I've had to listen to his music, and it's all like proper stuff about sort of like, oh, I'm sitting on the back of my pickup truck thinking about my mate who got killed in the Gulf War and all of that, and like the hayride that we went on, and how we like lost our virginity to our wives, who are the only women we've ever slept with, and all of that kind of thing. And you got then Katy Perry, I think, seems a bit kind of, she frightens me a little bit.
Yeah, is she on it now? Is she a judge now?
Yes, Katy Perry, Luke Bryan, Lionel Richie, and that's it. That's just them three, and they're all kind of nice. But I just get the impression every time there's like a sort of kooky female singer, Katy Perry sort of seems to be sort of like, I do all of a slightly unhinged kookiness around here. And
oh, right. Don't she be stepping on these kooky toes?
Yeah, she makes quite a good... she'd be quite good in a film as like a sort of psychopathic woman child. Like, she's probably very nice, but she gives me the fear.
She's my pick to... I'd have her play Zatanna if I ever did that in a DC film.
What's that, sorry, mate?
I'd have her play Zatanna.
Really?
Yeah, would you not? Her or Zooey Deschanel I'd go for.
I can't hear you. Sorry, is it all right to put my ear there?
Put your ears back in, mate. Yeah, man.
Sorry, say that again, mate?
If they ever cast, can I point out to people coming in late? That's Wil Hodgson's ear.
It's my ear.
This show's not taking a turn.
Sorry, say that again, mate.
If they were casting Zatanna in the DC universe, I'd have her in that part.
Yes, or if there have been any, I've got a vague thing of like a Bat villain, like a modern Bat villain that's like a doll or something like that. That is like a Mentalist like child's doll that like walks around and that, or if I just imagine that.
A Bat villain who's a doll?
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of Plastic Man. I think it might have been a Plastic Man villain that was like a living, terrifying doll.
Yeah, there's no Bat villain does that. A Plastic Man sounds like more your thing.
Plastic Man had some. Do you remember the Plastic Man cartoon show?
Yeah.
The 80s, from the very pages of DC Comics, and that had some brilliantly batshit villains in it. You had the guy, was it the Clam, who was like a clam with a captain's hat and an eye patch, and he was like a tank, and he was operating like a sub, so he was like a aquatic supervillain, but he was like in a tank, and he was a clam, and so he had henchmen. So how could a clam order, like, had all these like massive roided up looking blokes with like stripy shirts and kind of themed sort of. How do they do that, do you reckon, with henchmen? What's your theory for like the? Do you like rent? Do they rent the costumes out to them? Like you go for an interview and they go, right, you're gonna wear these, like you're with the Joker in Joker's like old school '60s games. So he goes, right, we all wear flat caps and like brightly coloured tank tops. Or with the Penguin, like we're all wearing bowler hats.
Bowler hats and striped shirts.
Oh, hang on, Tony. Baby Doll is a Batman and Superman villain. She was in the animated series in the most disturbing episode. There we go. Katy Perry, right there.
For Baby Doll. That's my brother, Will.
Is that your brother?
Mm.
Of course, Timothy Buckler. Hi, Timothy.
Mm. He knows his way around geek culture, mate, let me tell you. He's just done his radio show tonight all about that sort of stuff.
That's brilliant. I'd forgotten about that. So I've not seen all of the Batman animated series because I'm pretty much like I'm a bit of a kind of old school purist when it comes to comics. I'm a bit of a sort of silver and bronze ager myself.
Mm.
I do like the Batman animated series. So particularly Mark Hamill is good.
Oh yeah.
My wife's a very big fan of it, but I'm all about the 1966 series myself.
I'm with you there. One of the things I love about the animated Batman series, where there's the you get that thing of the along like with the '60s version, you get the guest villain of the week. You get someone quite interesting playing the part.
Yeah, Roddy.
You actually get some character actors, like Paul Williams is the Penguin.
Yeah, Roddy McDowall was in both. He was in the animated series as the Mad Hatter, and he was also in the '66 series as the Bookworm. The book-themed bad guy with who had a reading lamp attached to his head,
to his brown leather hat and his brown leather suit.
And he had one of the best. Like, it shows you when you watch the Batman thing. It shows you like that if you're a super villain, you get all the kind of like hot and interesting girlfriends, and that being a crime fighter is a solitary life. And the Bookworm had Susanna York playing his like, it's like when you look at how much some of these villains were punching above their weight, it's quite inspirational to a young geek, and it's amazing that more nerdy types like me didn't turn to crime as a result of that, because you think like you could be like Batman, and he's obviously like he could get off with Catwoman if he wanted to, but he doesn't seem to. He seems to think that's below him for one reason. But like you look at the Riddler, he's like knocking off Jill St. John, who's obviously like impressed by his conundrums and all of that kind of thing. Like even the Penguin as well, who's like he's punching way above his. Like, I suppose the Penguin's quite a old school charm sort of guy. I could imagine that his seduction would be quite sort of old school. And that I can see the Penguin not seducing someone in a flat with a bear skin.
Open fire.
It's a bit of like a running joke with me and Forge. In Rocky 3, on a total diversion, when Clubber Lang suggests to Adrian, he's like, baby, you come over my apartment. Let me show you a real man. Like, we always like to think about what Clubber Lang's apartment looks like. We reckon they'd have a bearskin rug and Teddy Pendergrass records, and possibly a mirrored ceiling in Clubber Lang's apartment of love.
A waterbed.
Well, yeah, I think Mr. T sort of like Mr. T sort of presents himself as a quite sexless figure in a lot of ways. except for Clubber Lang, who's making who's like it's bizarre. Mr. T kind of, he had the kind of like, he was like the Isaac Hayes, but of hitting people,
Yeah.
gagging. But Clubber Lang seems to combine the two in many respects. So yeah, but they're just bear. I can imagine the Penguin having like a bear skin rug, probably a polar bear skin rug,
Yeah.
with his general themology. But
Champagne on ice. Did you know why the Penguin was the most popular? There's more Penguin stories than any other stories in the Batman 60s series.
I did have an inkling that he had the most. I know that he really enjoyed playing the character. What, is there any other reason for that?
Well, yeah, they had a stack of Penguin scripts ready to go.
Really?
Because he was just very popular on the set. Everyone loved him.
Cool.
So when he was in town, they'd bump whatever they were making to get a Penguin story done, just to have him around. And he was also very close friends with John Lilly, the Psychonaut. So whenever he turned up, he'd have some new strain of marijuana or something from John Lilly's personal stash, or some kind of weird, like, you know, ketamine LSD derived, but you could smoke, and he'd be dishing it out. They'd be wanking on the set for smoking it and making the show.
Amazing. Nice
to see you, Burgess.
That's why he did the quack thing, because of his cough, wasn't it? Because he didn't smoke. Absolutely top hole. Have you ever seen that thing that's Burgess Meredith in the war, where it's like a wartime video showing GIs how to, like, not act the arsehole in Britain? And it's Burgess Meredith as a soldier. He's like in a pub, and there's like a Scots Garza with a kilt, and some guy's like, "Hey there, wearing a skirt, huh? You sap." He's like, that Scotchman don't like that, let me tell you. There's another bit where there's like a barmaid serving a black GI a drink, and he sort of he basically goes like, sort of like, right, well, this might seem unusual to some American GIs, but over here they're not. It's basically goes like, yeah, they're not as like racist as us over here, so he probably ought to got to turn it in with that, because they won't like it. He might get bored or something like that. And it's like, here's a general to explain. He's sort of like, well, Burgess, like, obviously we're all like full on racists at home, but like in Britain we're trying to make a good impression on people. So yeah, probably we ought to keep all that to ourselves for the time being. It's mental. I can't remember what the title of it is, but it takes you a while to figure out. I thought it was like Burgess Meredith. There it's probably what he did in the war.
I love Burgess Meredith. His book's cracking.
What there be your war?
He's I've got Burgess Meredith on my T-shirt. In fact, where is he? There he is.
Brilliant! I've got a tattoo of Meredith on my shoulder. I can't do it with because it's on my shoulder. I can't reach to show you. I've got Lee Merriweather as the Catwoman on this arm, but I've got Burgess Meredith, Caesar Romero, and Frank Gorshin on my shoulder.
Oh,
I remember showing that to Lee.
They're also on my T-shirt, by the way.
That is an Ace shirt. Where did you get that from?
This was a gift. This was a gift from my friend Sarah.
That's
my birthday.
Brilliant gift. That is a handsome T-shirt. That's not the sort of quality of T-shirt you used to get off the peg in the 80s, when you used to get quality licensed merch in and places like that. You'd get absolutely top hole, like Batman, Spider-Man type T-shirts in like mainstream shops back then. You can sort of in Primark now, but not like back in
It's not the same. You've got to get online, mate. Get on Amazon.
Day. But I remember showing Lee Merriweather that tattoo, and she's sort of like, "Oh, there's Caesar," and I'm like, "Sort of, fuck, you know, fucking Caesar Romero, don't you? Because you were Catwoman." And I was like, sort of a bit kind of, I was incredibly awesome. I'm seldom starstruck, but Lee Merriweather, absolutely. I met Yvonne Craig as well.
Oh, how was she?
Yeah, and I was in Swindon at Swindon Comic Convention, and I was stood in a big queue, and it was to me, it was her, and there was Lou Ferrigno, and there was Yvonne Craig, and I was stood in the queue, and they were sort of like, "Is anyone here to see Yvonne Craig?" Because everyone's out to see Lou Ferrigno. I'm like, "I'm not here to see Lou Ferrigno. I'm here to meet Batgirl. And they're like, right, usher him to the front quickly. So obviously, there wasn't much uptake on Yvonne Craig.
Yeah.
So they, everyone was more interested in Lou Ferrigno for whatever reason. So they ushered me to the front, and yeah, so it's Ace. She goes, oh, can I touch your hair? I'm like your Batgirl, like sort of yes, very much so. So please do. She didn't look any different, really. She must have had work done. She didn't look any different, really, to she did in the '60s. Absolute class act. Lee Merriweather was still like, but she's still very, very attractive. But she was a lot older. Her daughter, though, looked exactly the same as Lee Merriweather in the '60s.
Wow.
That was a good day. That was Cardiff Comic Con. I met her, and I met John Wagner, the guy that invented Judge Dredd, and it was good Comic Con. I don't go to enough Comic Cons.
Well, me and you were talking about going to do the one that Adam West was going to do, but he ended up passing away before he got there.
Absolutely gutted, mate.
Yeah.
I had a ticket, I think, for that, and when I heard, I was at I remember I was having a drink. I was at Bristol Tattoo Convention when I heard that Adam. I can actually remember where I was when Adam West died. Kind of like that's like my JFK thing. I remember where I was. I was over with my mate Nick having a drink. I was about to get tattooed at Bristol Comic Con with this. I think, it was this origami pig right here that I had done. I had a look. I thought I'd have a look round. Not going to get anything, and then I thought I have to get something because it just like gets you. There was a guy, unrelated but related note. There was a bloke who was doing a tattoo store, and all he was doing was tattooing the C word on people. That's all he was doing. He was like, "This is literally what I'm doing." They were queuing right the way round the thing to get this done, just to get that word tattooed on them. That's all he was doing.
Jesus!
What an utterly amazing sort of like. He must have thought like, oh, maybe I should just do that, like flippantly, and thought maybe I could. And imagine pitching that. So what's your store going to be? Like, I'm literally going to tattoo the C word on anyone who comes in there for like sort of 10 quid a time. And this is what he's doing. He's like a proper tattooist now, not like a scratch artist. But that's just what he was doing. There was men, women of all ages queuing up to get tattooed with this. I've never seen anything like it. I wish I'd got it like somewhere like non-visible myself now. I thought it was a bit coarse myself, but also I quite admired the can-do attitude that he had there. The sort of the audacity. That's what I'm looking for, an audacious stall.
I'm going down there to do my day's work. What are you going to be doing today then, love? Well, I've got this day planned out. I'm just going to be doing the one tattoo on repeat. What's it going to be? Of
course, logical next step is that you should open a shop that just does that and see how long you can keep it going for.
Yeah.
Or maybe just tour the pubs.
Quids in with a brave new world.
Yeah, tour the pubs you could with that, and just like you go, I'll book in, I'll turn up at your pub at 1:45 in the morning and do that. It's always like an idea that I keep trying to float in pubs or drinking is we should do like a tattoo night, but no one can have anything done until like 10 minutes to close it. So that you're like the next morning, you're sort of like, well, why have I got Little Mix tattooed on my face? I think that was a good idea. Of course, you couldn't do it, of course, but you could. Have you seen the Bruce Forsyth Real Ale that's in Morrison's?
No, Bruce Forsyth Real Ale. Have you got it there?
I kept the can. It's called Juice Forsyth. Look at this. It's got a cuddly toy rating on it.
How's it taste?
Juice Forsyth.
Juice Forsyth.
How pissed off must Jim Davidson be that there's a Generation Gate beer and it's not him?
He's got to be furious.
There never will be. There never will be like Juice Davidson. He should be on Stella.
Yeah. Can of white beer.
White beer. Yeah, Juice Forsyth. Yeah, I've never kept a beer can before, but that has been added to the collection.
a Larry Grayson G&T. That's quite the figure. I see quite. Is that Mum Ra the ever living I perceive behind you, Will?
Where's that, mate?
Is that Mum Ra the ever living that I perceive behind you?
Mum Ra the ever living. That was my original one that I had when I was a kid. It's got no headgear, but I think the action still works. Yeah. Here we go. That's the one. They don't like it up them.
No.
The cats.
I remember Lino was the claw hand with the shield, wasn't it, coming down?
Yeah, you used to be able to get the Mum Ra with the bandages. That's why you had to send off for him, I think.
I had it.
The bandages.
Collected the tokens, I sent it off and it through it came. Cheers, mate.
Sorry, mate?
That's a Bela Lugosi as well, isn't it?
Yeah, my mum got me that for Christmas just gone. That's I'm not sure what the make is of it. It's not a Mego, but it appears to be like a 1970 sort of 78, or I reckon. This, what else is that we got here? Got some stuff on hand here. This I used to keep with my Michael Jackson dolls when they were socially acceptable to have on display. That's Paulie Culkin Home Alone figure. I used to like to have him next. So I've got 2 Michael Jackson dolls. I don't know what to do with them now. I don't know whether I can sell them or not. They used to be quite prized collectibles.
Yeah.
Well, I got the Thriller outfit and the Billie Jean outfit, and they're now in a pile with my Jim Will Fix It Soap on a Rope and my Rolf Harris albums and Stylophone now in the pile of shame.
Oh God, yeah, I've got that. I have this song. I always have this. Because "Sun Arise" was one of my favourite songs.
Oh, God, I was a huge Rolf Harris fan. I ever tell you the story about Rolf Harris telling me off for smoking?
No, go on. Let's have it.
Well, I went to Luton University, and I was with some mates of mine, and we went to see Rolf Harris. There was this like nightclub that had used to have bands on, and we went to some quite good gigs there. I saw Ian Jory and the Blockheads there just before Ian Jory died. We seen the Selector, and this was 1998, 99, something like that. And there was Rolf Harris, and we loved Rolf Harris on a totally non-ironic level, and he was our idea of we think, no matter what you think of people, who you think's an arsehole or whatever, Rolf Harris is definitely all right, we think. He's one of these people like Stan Lee or Attenborough. He's a national treasure. You know where you are with Rolf. Were you in any kind of bother, you could go straight to Rolf Harris and he'd be a safe person. So we went to this gig, and it was like, what do you think about his music now? It is just the sound of a man wanking with Iffle going on behind it. So he was doing cover versions of like Satisfaction and all that, doing like it's like dubious now in retrospect. But you think like Rolf don't know what he's doing. Noise. He just thinks they're funny noise. He don't think there's any kind of thing. But we're all there because we're all like sort of 20-year-old like drug bores. You know what I mean? Olympic level drug bores. We're sort of all like, oh yes, like we all smoke weed. If everyone else in the world was forced to smoke weed, there'd be no war or anything like that, and there'd be like dolphins dancing on rainbows and all of that. We were like, I bet Rolf Harris smokes loads of weed. Oh yeah, and I said to my mates, like, I don't reckon Rolf Harris does smoke loads of weed. They were like, I was like, I'll bloody ask him. So I'm going to queue up for an autograph, and I'm going to ask him to his face if he smokes loads of weed, and we'll see what happens. So he done the set, and it was a tremendous show. It really was. He done like 2 little boys, and everyone was fucking crying.
Oh Christ!
All of that. It's just perfectly done. Not do you think I would see you die? We're like, oh Christ! And triumphant, like tying the kangaroo down and all of that. It was absolutely tremendous. Got in the queue. There's the guy who was the guy from Class War Luton was in front of me, and he had 7 things autographed. Guy that we used to call Class War James. And then so I got the thing. Rolf Harris is there. He's wearing a biker jacket off stage. I thought, well, Rolf's a bit more kind of rocking than what I thought. And I said, like, oh, it's a brilliant show. I was like, you didn't do Jake the Peg, and he was all like, no, I couldn't get the bastard thing out of there. And I'm like, all right, you swearing fucker. I can use the word filthy language out of Rolf Harris. And I was like, so he got the thing, sort of like, oh, do you want me to draw a little good old Rolfaroo or a kangaroo. He always used to do that thing like Rolfaroo or a kangaroo. No one calls it a kangaroo.
It's always been a Rolfaroo.
Yeah, that's like Rolfaroo. So he draws that. So that was like a valuable thing that I had for years. That was an original signed ticket with a Rolfaroo on it. Now it's just a drawing of a kangaroo with a nonce's head on it. The collectible. So I said, and I was like, so I got this. Like, cheers, Rolf. By the way, I said, like, Rolf, do you smoke loads of marijuana? And he just goes, he didn't look mad. He just looked disappointed. He's like, because nah, because I never smoked anything. It's a disgust. He was like pointing at my fag. He's got like a really disgusting smell. It's a filthy habit. I think I know a worse one.
Yeah.
I know a worse one, Rolf. But I think as I walked away, right, and I was thinking, Christ, I've upset Rolf Harris. I've upset Rolf Harris is mad at me. And it was him being like a dick. He could have just gone like, no, I've not smoked loads of weed. He didn't need to go off at me. But I walked away thinking like, I've done something wrong here. I've upset Rolf. And that takes on a much more sinister tone when you think of how he must have operated. Like, oh, that wasn't Rolf being an old creep. That must have been, do you know what I mean? It's just, it makes it a whole kind of sinister thing. I was livid when all this came to light. I was absolutely fit to be tied. I didn't disbelieve. Tellingly, I didn't disbelieve it for a second. Even though I was initially shocked, there was no point where I thought, "No, this is all bullshit." I thought, like, no, it's like I see you now, and I think all the money that I spent on stuff in good faith, and I thought, you know what, I thought to myself one day, I was going through the loft and for all the stuff in my mum's loft that I've collected. I was going through the kind of grim process of de-rolfing my collection, and I thought this must be like £100 spent in good faith, and I thought I ought to send him an invoice to the Nick and just go like, sort of, dear Rolf, like, I should start it with, you may be wondering how things could possibly get any worse. Well, like, I reckon £100 spent in good faith. I was like, I want this repaid, or you can fight me for it. I'll give like here's the Old Road Tavern, Chippenham. There's a skip over the road, and we can. If you don't want to pay me £100, then once you get released, we'll have it by the skip, and I'll fight you for it. Then I thought, do I want to have a fight with a man who spent 6 years in prison, even if it is Rolf Harris? Even if I had like my mates like behind the skip in case I got into deep water, in case he was like sort of twos, like now you're fucked, mate. I was like,
he comes out like Max,
like Rolf Aru tattooed on his knuckles or whatever. Like
Max Cady coming out of the walking towards.
Yeah.
What about your books, Rolf? Already read them. Kind of.
Oh dear, the very thought of
shot.
If you, I feel sorry for the other convicts that had to beat him up in prison, because I expect like some of them must have been like obviously like sort of like take that nonce features, but thinking like inspired me to draw.
Yeah.
Child, there'd be like a sort of like emotional connection that they probably don't normally feel when they're like chucking boiling water and sugar over them or whatever. They must have thought like, cartoon club though, like really a joy in my difficult childhood that led me to a life of honest villainy. You know, like the old, I don't think it's that. Does that really happen, the whole thing in jail of like the likes of Rolf Harris getting done over by like sort of good honest bank robbers and guys like Harry and Ronnie and all of that sort of, and that doing, I don't think that happens. Does expect Rolf was in there sequestered with a load of other Rolf types. It still irks me to this day. I hope I never bump into Rolf Harris ever again, because I don't know how I'd react and all of that. It'd be hell of a hill to die on.
Yeah.
The man who attacked Rolf Harris, especially if he just like beat me up.
If he won, that would be the acutely embarrassing thing.
I mean, I'm not a fighter. I imagine Rolf has survived jail, being Rolf Harris, and that it's. I think I've still got that ticket somewhere. I think
you were a wrestler for a bit, weren't you?
I did. I went to wrestling. I went to wrestling school in Trowbridge for a bit. What it is, I was on a documentary about World of Sport Wrestling, and it was narrated by Chris Eccleston. And in the narration, they said that I'd been a wrestler for 2 years. That was a mistake. I went to a wrestling school for about kind of 6 to 9 months. But yes, I did wrestling. I've wrestled in battle royals in the Trowbridge and Melksham area in like the past when I was about kind of 22, I think, something like that. So it wasn't really a wrestling career, but I used to go to the show. I used to train at the school. I wasn't very good. One of the things that I couldn't do was the bouncing off the ropes thing. I used to flinch at the ropes, and that's like a major thing. And it used to be every Sunday. There was an advert in the paper for it. This is how I got into. I've never really sort of like talked properly about this. I don't think there was an advert in the paper, in the Wiltshire Gazette, and it was about this wrestling school. It was called the PWA, the Professional Wrestling Alliance, but it was run by a family whose name was Humphreys, and the dad, his name was Reg. He was a nice old boy. He was like an old school wrestler. He'd wrestled in the 70s and 80s. I think he might have had a kung fu gimmick. I'm not sure, but he was had some kind of thing. He had one of those like things like Piney in Sons of Anarchy's got. He was hooked up to sometimes, but he used to help out in that. And the mum was like a promoter, a bit like the Hart family. Brett the Hitman Hart and Stu Hart and all of that. They're a bit like that, but in Trowbridge. Like really.
I was thinking of the Fighting with My Family.
Yes, it was exactly like Fighting with My Family. That's the sort of promotion it was. It was like that. It was the dad was a wrestler. The mum was like a kind of seasoned promoter, and the son was called Gareth the Gangster Humphreys. He was the champion. Really nice people, really nice bloke, Gareth. Massive. It used to hurt like fuck when he slammed you and that. And it was him. There was a guy called Martin who ran a movie merchandise shop in Swindon, and he was the 30 Stone Rampage, and he was someone else that used to terrify me to do training with. There was a guy called Sergeant Striker, who was like Sergeant Slaughter. He was really stiff in training. By stiff, I mean it hurts when they do the stuff. It's much more real and that. And there was a lot of kids wrestling as well. There was a lot of like sort of 13-year-old kids who were very good. There was a guy called that everyone called Furby. I don't think that was his gimmick. I think that was just his nickname. And there was there was another kid called Brendan or Brenton, who was like about 13, was very talented, aerial acrobatic kind of wrestler. All really, really nice people. There was a guy, the promoter of the thing was a guy called Mad Eli, who was a bit of a kind of one of your sort of like old school eccentric types. He was like a old guy who wore like a jacket that was covered in badges, a bit like a pearly king, and he was a mentalist. He was this kind of like eccentric, sort of openly gay, sort of mental kind of character. And he just was generally like if there's some kind of esoteric stuff in Bath, Mad Eli would be in the thick of it, promoting it. Like if someone was wrestling match, someone getting shot out of a cannon, something like that, there'd be Mad Eli. I remember going around to his house to pick some stuff up before a show, and I went to have a piss in his bathroom, and his bathroom was all Queen's Silver Jubilee china on all of the walls, and all of that right the way up it, like completely covered in this china. And it was a bit like that poster of Liberace when he's in his bath with all the gold and stuff, but it was kind of
with the mirror in the ceiling,
Jubilee
with the bubbles, doing that with the bubbles.
Well, yeah, and I remember there was a show coming up that Yokozuna was meant to appear, and he died on tour. He was the big Samoan guy that had like a sumo gimmick. He was WWF champion, but he died in Liverpool in a hotel room before he got to Wiltshire to do the show. He was terrified of spiders. He saw a spider in his hotel room because he was so overweight. He just died of a heart attack, apparently, in the hotel room. But there was I remember being on the way to this show before that, and Mad Eli was kind of like joking about how he was going to try and get off with Yokozuna and that. I thought it was quite interesting, this sort of, this kind of what you'd think would be quite a conservative kind of culture, that there was this sort of very sort of like openly gay man who was like sort of joking about it. It was kind of like joking. Obviously, people were like sort of joking about his sexuality, but not in the kind of derisive way you'd think. I think that's the thing with wrestling, that it is very kind of, it's very working class. You get a lot of, you get think of as quite sort of, that you'd sort of stereotypically think of as sort of rough types, but I think there's this very kind of outsider attitude about it as well. But it was really great. I wish that I'd been able to do more in it, and I wish that I had more kind of ability to do wrestling. It just wasn't for me, but I just really loved seeing the inside of it for a bit. And being in the ring doing a battle royal is a buzz, even if it's just a spare part that gets slung out kind of in the early stages of it. That's a hell of a thing when you've grown up watching like the Royal Rumble and that, even if it's just Trowbridge Civic Hall. I remember getting in there with I remember I went in there and I went straight for, got in the first one I did, and it was like the Royal Rumble format where they send you in like in a bit. I remember going in and there was because I was wanting to do heel, so there was a wrestler, there was a guy called Terry, and his gimmick was the country boy. It was kind of like Hillbilly Jim, Haystacks Calhoun, like big guy he was. It was all like, it was kind of like Haystacks if he was a good guy rather than a bad guy. So he had like the overalls, and he must have been about 40 stone, huge. But he was like and he had like a sort of straw hat and that, and he come onto this used to come onto this bit of music. It went like, "Don't go messing with a country boy, country," the sort of thing that like kids love it and adults think like, you know, God, like this is good. So I went straight in. So I went straight for him because he was like the kids' favourite. So like, obviously that's how you show that you're a heel, is you go straight for one of the good guys. And I remember I sort of like, with about three of us, were trying to like shift him over the ropes. You just can't do it, a bloke of that size. And then after a bit, the Anthrax kid just sort of like comes near me and he's sort of like, right, I'm going to put you out. That's how. There's not really. It is like, obviously it's like kind of pre-planned, but a lot of it's quite done quite on the fly. So you go in there and you're like, just sort of like sort of you that are sort of like still being trained, sort of go in kind of like, obviously like laying to Terry because he's like massive, and you can just punch away at him like a massive pillow and make it look good. But like sort of like you've got like do that for a bit, and then one of the more experienced guys will put you out, and you've been shown how to go out of the ring. There's like two main ways of doing it, and what do I think of the WWE now? Not a great deal, mate. Not a great deal. I like Charlotte Flair, and I like the women's wrestling in the WWE. I've watched the odd episode, and I think the stick work, the talking, it's lost a lot of the kind of cartoon campness that I like about wrestling at the minute. It seems to be very much like people going, I want to become a wrestler and be a multi-millionaire. Doesn't seem to be that sort of misfit people that it used to.
Like comedy.
It just seems to be more sort of, I just don't really like it. The women's wrestling I like, but I just like things with Amazonian women in it. So like obviously I like Ronda Rousey, that kind of Charlotte Flair and all of that, but not a great deal. But anyway, so in the battle royal thing, so one of the more experienced guys will put you over. So going over the ropes, you can either go forward or backward. The best, easiest way I found was to go backwards. So you lean on the ropes like that with both your arms on the ropes, and then you get someone will clothesline you, and as in like run at you and put their arm out and go across your neck with it, and then you go back with your legs up like a Sabutio table foot, not like a table football player, like that. And then you go right, if they give you enough traction, you can go right round and land on your feet on the outside. Then you look sort of like, oh, I'm disgruntled because I've gone out. It's much better. It looks more difficult and more impressive. It's much easier than going out on your going out forwards, because then you having to use your elbow and knee pads to protect your face. I went over forward in that one, and I bit the inside of my mouth quite badly, as I remember. But it was great. I remember when we did that. I used to help put the ring up and down as well. That takes like a while. The ring you get like it's like basically like a lot of sort of steel girders or whatever that make the ring up. Then you've got a big spring underneath it, and then on the spring there's boards, then there's carpet, there's more boards. And we used to, at the mat that we were wrestling on then had World of Sport written on it, so it must have been like a surplus one from back then. So you sort of think this might have like bits of like Mick McManus's blood or whatever somewhere.
Big Daddy's sweat.
That. It's just a real buzz. I couldn't possibly do it now because I'm 40 and full of like sort of hernias and all of that kind of thing. But it's like I kind of wish that I'd done a bit more with it. I've seen like people kind of get into it. It's easier to get into it now. I think that was just on the cusp of when it became like going to like that was almost like kind of. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of easy. It's not so much of like a kind of like secluded world anymore than what it was. I would have loved to have been involved back in the old days. So I've read that book, The Wrestling. I'm kind of obsessed with British wrestling of the 70s and 80s. There's just something about that kind of fascinates me. That even sort of more so than the American stuff. Really, there's just like this mad mixture of like hard and camp to it that like just really kind of speaks to me.
I remember they tried to bring that back with celebrities. Remember that about 15 years ago? Grant Bovey was in it.
Yeah, it was Rowdy Roddy Piper involved?
He was the host, yeah. But it was more like they'd repackaged gladiators.
I don't remember that. They brought the World of Sport back recently, and they had my favourite wrestlers at the minute are I've got tattoos of them. They've got this Grado, who some of you might or might not. What's this thing? Yeah, Grado there, and I can't really do the tats on here. Yeah, Grado. No, that's Granny from Playboy and Ninja Turtle.
And was that a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
Grado is this chubby Glaswegian bloke who comes on to Like a Prayer by Madonna, and he's basically like a sort of unreconstructed iron brew drinking sort of chubby Scottish bloke, and he's one of my favourite wrestlers. And there's also Viper, who's kind of almost his sort of like female counterpart in a way. She's this kind of plus sized Scottish female wrestler who's like by day there was a documentary about her. Like by day she was working for her dad's coach hire company, and then by the evening doing wrestling and that. It was just a really good documentary. And so they're my kind of like two favourite wrestlers right about now. That's sort of kind of iconic to me. I like sort of iconography with wrestlers. It's not just the actual the wrestling itself is good, but I like the shtick. What kind of does it for me. What wrestlers that I find fascinating individuals, like Adrian Street, I've always been fascinated by, but I couldn't like stand here and discuss the intricacies of like how he does a side suplex or whatever. But the whole concept of Adrian Street, this like ex-coal mining glam rocker, and that's what it is with wrestling that appeals to me. I think those kind of odd contrasts.
It's a wonderful thing. My brother's well into it.
Yeah, he's a Grado fan right about there.
Yeah, you can just see what he's doing the chant. Yeah,
rightly so. Grado. If they'd have given that World of Sport thing a bigger push, Grado could have been the big daddy of our times. I think if there was only like 2 channels. I reckon Grado would have taken off like Big Daddy and been that could have had that kind of crossover of appealing to kids and drunkards like Big Daddy did. That's the 2 key things that you.
I remember the Big Daddy stripping the Beano.
Was it the Beano? I do. I think it might have been the Buster rather than the Beano.
Buster, that was it. It was in Buster.
I used to have a Big Daddy joke book as well. That was just like a book of jokes that had Big Daddy on the front, and it was like says we're like laugh or else. It's like what you're gonna come round and batter a child because I didn't laugh at all the shitty jokes in the book. I've got a Big Daddy tattoo. I can show my Big Daddy tattoo, I think, with this. I've got a plethora of... I'm only going to undo this a bit because I've got, like... I've put lockdown pounds on.
Oh, we've all put on lockdown pounds. Is that Jerry Halliwell?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole kind of plethora of stuff going on here. But I've got World of Sport wrestling tattoos further down as well. God, this has got a weird feeling, like a weird feeling.
Like a pulp culture Max Cady.
Dusty
There he is.
Rhodes there, obviously Big Daddy, Haystacks, Kendo Nagasaki, Exotic Adrian Street, Rowdy Roddy Piper, obviously, in the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. So I had that done up at the Fringe. I think it was the day that Dusty Rhodes' death was announced. I thought I'm going to go and have Dusty Rhodes tattooed on me with the blood, because obviously Dusty Rhodes was famous for doing so much blading, the whole thing of getting the blood, that his forehead was basically like paper. So all he had to do was give himself like a bit of a tap, and he'd be gushing. Dusty Rhodes was one of my favourite wrestlers as well. He had 3 man tits. Dusty Rhodes. He had 2 absolutely first-rate man tits, and he had like a man tits, and I've got like a fair set myself. He had 2, what looked like a third one under his arm. But Dusty Rhodes was, I think, the first body-positive wrestler, because he just wasn't that. He just didn't give. He used to go out there shirtless. He was just all. He never went to the gym one day in his life, I don't think. His training was just like eating like barbecue, like in the King of the Hill, Sugarfoot's barbecue.
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine like Sugarfoot, old top. Imagine Dusty Rhodes at Sugarfoot's. He'd just go on. He was all just like man tits and stretch marks. Be up there dancing and go, "Too sweet to be sour." Kind of the mum. He was kind of the first body positive wrestler, I think.
Mm. Yeah, you look at it now. It's not like that, is it?
No, it's not as organic.
No, they're all chiseled and it's all kind of, yeah, it feels a bit too worked out now.
It all just seems a bit kind of. What's this? Giant Haystacks live near me. I'm not surprised. I'll be terrified to see giant haystacks at a fish market. Haystacks always looked so disgruntled. Looked pissed off, and I think it's probably that kind of thing, like with Andre the Giant, that he was just kind of the size he was. It must have been like I remember seeing like when I was a kid, seeing a thing with him, and it was like seeing him trying to get in the ring was like part of the theatrics of it. Seeing Haystack sort of squeezing himself. I met Big Daddy when I was about. I met Hulk Hogan as well. I met Hulk Hogan.
Oh, I've had the countdown. Will, this is about to chuck us off. So what I'm going to do? Are you all right? Still talking, mate?
Yeah, of course I am, mate.
I'm going to cut this off because it's going to cut us off anyway. I've just got the countdowns just popped up, and then I'll come straight back on and we'll carry on.
No worries, mate. No worries.
How's that? So this isn't the end of it. I'm going to have to jump off and jump back on. Otherwise, we're screwed. So we'll do that.
Okay, so we've got to do the same thing again, yeah?
Same thing again. Yeah, I'm going to nip out. We'll nip back in.
No worries, mate.
See you in a bit.
Yeah.
If you want, yeah, we're going to come straight back on. Everyone who's watching this, it's just going to chuck us off anyway. So yeah, we'll stick around. We're from more Wil Hodgson.